Happening now on Grid Tonight, Aston Martin might be in trouble entering Australia. What happened in preseason testing last week that caused alarm bells to go off? MotoGP is leaving Phillip Island for Adelaide in 2027. Can MotoGP put on a safe street race, and what's next for Phillip Island? NASCAR released the Dover All-Star Race format this afternoon. How much did the format change compared to last year? Hello to all of our viewers watching here in the United States and around the world. Welcome to Grid Tonight, your weekly motorsports news program. I'm Kobe Lambert. With me are Joshua Birch from JB Motorsports and Matt White from Grid Endurance Performance Index. Throughout the show, leave your comments and questions in the chat for us to display, and visit gridnetworktv.com for our latest content. We have a lot of news to talk about today, so Josh, take it away with our top story this evening.
Yeah, good evening, Kobe. Good evening, Matt. And also, just a quick one. Slightly losing the voice. It's going around the UK, and Megan's got tonsillitis. So I don't think I've caught that, but it's just a little squeal. So if I cough or you see myself drinking a cup of tea, it's to try and get the voice back together again. But hello, Astral. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. And let's get straight into it, because this one is a nice story to start with if you're an F1 fan. With the conclusion of Formula One preseason testing last weekend in Bahrain, it appears that one F1 team might be in a lot of trouble entering the season opener in Australia. Now, naturally, one might expect it would be the newest team on the grid, Cadillac F1. However, that's not the case. It's Aston Martin F1, who was the slowest in Bahrain and completed the least amount of running compared to the other teams. Now, according to Andrew Benson from BBC Sport, although Aston Martin and its newest engine supplier Honda have said little publicly, behind the scenes, nobody is trying to hide the reality that they are in trouble. Now, Benson said that the team owner, Lawrence Stroll, was seen walking through the paddock with a look of anger and despair on his face. Now, after two lackluster seasons, there was a lot of hope for Aston Martin entering the 2026 F1 season. In 2023, they scored 8 podiums and 280 points between Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll. Aston Martin scored fewer points in 2024 and 2025, combined at 183 points when you compare it to the 2023 season. With 2 down years, many expected that Aston Martin was really preparing themselves for the new regulations this year. Aston Martin invested in building a remarkable new factory with a fancy wind tunnel and driver simulator. Now, they got commitment from major financial backers, signed long-term, highly respected engineer Adrian Newey, and partnered with Honda after all of their success with Red Bull. Now, it seemed like all of the stars were aligning for success this year, but the troubles in testing have given an immediate pause. On a past episode of Grid Tonight, Matt and I questioned if Newey was ready for the challenges of being a team principal and continuing to design F1 cars. Now, in Benson's article, he says when Newey arrived to Aston Martin in March 2025, he did a complete redesign of Aston Martin's 2026 car brand based on his own ideas. Now, therefore, they put Aston Martin behind compared to other F1 teams in terms of car development. Then you have Honda struggling with performance and reliability of its engine to add to the pain. Now, we will have to wait for lights out in Melbourne to see if Aston Martin can make any improvements between now and then, or this will be a lingering nightmare. The link to this article is in the video description below and the graphic courtesy of Aston Martin. Okay, I'll start with you on this one as my voice slowly starts to go. Could 2026 be a long and painful year for Aston Martin F1?
Well, if they don't figure out any of the issues we saw in testing, it is going to be a very long and painful year for Aston Martin. And this situation also shows, that just because you have all the money in the world, it don't mean you can buy success, with all that money. And this is really crazy seeing, everything Aston Martin's Formula One program has done in the last few years, they were banking on 2026. As you mentioned, Josh, 2023, was a good year for Aston Martin. They ran really well in many respects for them. And then the last 2 years, just been kind of a dud for that program, Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll. And we were saying if these are 2 down years for Aston Martin, 2026, they're going to get the new regulations right, and they're going to be ready to go. As you mentioned, Lawrence Stroll, he built this state of the art facility with this wind tunnel and then the driver simulator. A lot, which was obviously going to be a big improvement over what they had. They had significant financial backing to continue to support the F1 team into the future, bringing in Adrian Newey, who many consider one of the most respected minds in Formula One engineering and car designing. Yeah, and then just a whole bunch of really great things that look good on paper, but so far it hasn't really panned out. And then you bring up the point that once Adrian Newey came in after his Red Bull tenure, he obviously looked at what Aston Martin had been doing with the car, and he surely didn't like what he saw. So when he did the complete redesign that put them behind the 8 ball, and that's really unfortunate when all these other teams have been working on this car for the longest time, and all of a sudden Adrian Newey wants something different, and now they're super behind in development. It's gonna be a massive task for them to try to catch up and all that. I know we're gonna talk a little bit more about the Honda power unit they're gonna be using it in just a little while, but just focus on Aston Martin as a whole. It's just really crazy to see how much they've invested in this program, and then to come out and test and completely fall on their face. And here I was thinking, just because of the fact that Williams, had some trouble getting off the ground, not showing up initially for testing. I thought Williams were the ones in trouble, but after seeing, what happened to Aston Martin testing, I think they might be the ones, who are in real big trouble now, because this is not what you want to see, when you're just, not even a month away, just a couple of weeks away from lights out and away we go in Melbourne, Australia, at, the Albert Park Street Circuit. I'm sure if you're Aston Martin right now, Honda, you're absolutely panicking right now, because you've got to try to get something figured out so you don't go to Melbourne and completely embarrass yourself. So hopefully they can avoid that and figure something out. And who would have thought Aston Martin would be the ones in trouble? Because I'm sure a lot of people, like you say, Josh, would expect to be the new Cadillac F1 team, but Cadillac look like they're quite ahead of Aston Martin right now, while Aston is, completely, catching up. And if you look at the Andrew Benson article that Josh referenced, you can see, the photo of Lawrence Stroll, who looks like he's just absolutely disgusted at what he's seeing, because this is not what they expected. Aston Martin had high expectations for this year, and it's got off to an absolutely rubbish start.
Well, good evening, Kobe. Hello, Josh. Hello, everyone. There was always going to be someone cut adrift, we felt like, going into this season, wasn't there? And as you mentioned, Kobe, kind of general consensus after the first little bit of testing and the shakedown at Barcelona was that it was going to be Williams, because they didn't show up at all. But it's Aston. You mentioned Cadillac. They're not last. Then they're well from last. They're in there with Williams and with Haas. By the sounds of things, we'll get obviously a better picture of things when we get to Melbourne next weekend. But what resources that have been piled in, solid driver lineup in terms of continuity, talent based. Perhaps we'll touch on that in a moment with one of their drivers. New PU supplier for the season, new wind tunnel, new team principal, new design, everything kind of new. They've been building towards this moment over the last however long, couple of years, and a couple of other teams have been doing the same. Williams took a big step back, although granted they've had some, a bit of up and down in the last couple of years, more up than down, frankly. Haas have been kind of stagnant. Alpine pretty much took the whole of last year off. Aston have spent the money and they've come out with, a pocket full of change and nothing to show for it by the looks of things at the moment. So, not looking good. There was a rumour that I heard from the end of the test last week, which is why one of the reasons why they ended up curtailing their running on Thursday, Friday, whatever it was, because they'd run out of batteries. They'd gone through all of their batteries, so they had to stop because they had no more spares. So there is a lot of work, you can be sure, has gone on at Silverstone this week, and preparing to obviously get the cars out to Australia, which I don't know if that's already happened or will be happening over the weekend or whatever, but they'll be on their way pretty much from now. It's going to be a case of you've got what you've got and go from there. And we've seen a few teams turn up at the first Grand Prix of the season, whether it be Melbourne or Bahrain, over the last handful of years that have looked terrible. We'll have to wait and see what Aston Martin bring us next weekend, because at the moment they could be struggling to get into 107% qualifying.
And maybe not even get off the start, because they've missed 2/3 of the practice starts that we've had with the new light procedure, which you understand is going to be tested when we get to Albert Park as well at the end of the practice sessions, just so that everybody is familiar with how the new procedure is going to work. So, focusing on Aston Martin's number 1 driver and 2-time Formula 1 world champion, 44-year-old Fernando Alonso, he must be feeling like he's experiencing a blast from the past. And an entire decade ago, Alonso was a McLaren driver dealing with an awful Honda engine that was underpowered, unreliable, uncompetitive, and frankly embarrassing. Now, flash forward to 2026, it feels like he's having to live through the same nightmare. Now, during his McLaren Honda tenure, Alonso often criticised Honda, famously referring to the Japanese manufacturer's power unit at their home Grand Prix as a GP2 engine. So, McLaren's car with Honda power was so bad that he skipped out on the Monaco Grand Prix in 2017 to enter the Indianapolis 500 with a collaboration between Andretti Global, McLaren, and a proven Honda engine in the NTT IndyCar series. Now, however, as time went on, Honda's opinion on Alonso soured, and when he tried to do the Indy 500 again with Andretti, he was essentially blocked from doing so because Andretti was also a Honda-powered team. So Alonso could only consist the 500 with a Chevrolet-powered teams, since Honda didn't want to do business with him anymore. Now, Honda and Alonso are back together again. The question is, though, for better or worse? So, Matt, coming back to you on this one, is Fernando Alonso one of the most unluckiest Formula 1 drivers? And if this Aston Martin Honda project becomes a major dud, do you think he'll leave before the 2026 season ends, or will he make this his final year in Formula 1?
We'll have to wait and see on that. Just looking for... I must have preempted this story, because I did tweet this exact tweet yesterday. Can't wait for race 1 of the season, lap 5, after Alonso breaks down and we're told yet again how unlucky the World Endurance Champion, Le Mans winner, 2-time Formula 1 World Champion, and 32-time Grand Prix winner is. Just so unlucky. You make your own luck in this game. You shouldn't have fallen out with Ron Dennis in 2007 when upstart Lewis Hamilton came to town. Things could have been very different. Then he went to Renault, Crashgate, etc. That all fell out of bed. Goes to Ferrari, had a chance, almost had the World Championship in his hand twice. Who can forget that Brazilian Grand Prix in 2012 at the end of the season, with that stare down the pit lane at the end of the race? He could have had so much more. And you feel like from there, really, from when he went back to McLaren, apart from his stint with Toyota in WEC, it just hasn't happened for whatever reason. That 500 that he did do, the first one, he was within a shot of getting a great result and or maybe getting a win before, of course, Honda engines came to strike the mighty Spaniard yet again. So yeah, I don't know. Then it was somewhere along the line he's stepped on all of the black cats while walking under a ladder and smashing a mirror, hasn't he, Fernando? Apparently, if you agree with some people. And what is he now, 44 or something? So yeah, if we get to Monaco, which is the first European Grand Prix of the season in June, which is still bizarre to think of, and they're still cut adrift-ish, not really scoring points, and nothing's made a breakthrough, then I can see him either, well, I won't say he'd walk away during the year, but certainly would have gone, I've had enough of this. I'll run out the season, and that'll be me done, and I'll go and do something else for another couple of years, just to keep his powder, keep his wet in his whistle, let's say. So I don't think he's going to completely throw all the toys out the pram, but you can imagine that again this winter and this pre-season, he's just been sitting on airplanes or sitting at home going, what have I done again to deserve this?
For whatever reason, the motorsports gods, they're not aligned with Fernando Alonso. They haven't been aligned with him for a very long time now. Like I can imagine what he must be feeling right at this very moment. It's like I said, like Josh was saying, it's like deja vu all over again for Alonso an entire decade later. It's crazy. The last decade he was, in a Honda powered car that wasn't, performing well, and now once again he's on a Honda powered car that is not living up to the standards. And it's just crazy to see how unlucky this guy is, because it seems like whenever he leaves an organization, that organization that he was at always seems to magically get better, and then he has to be wondering like what happened, and and all of that. And it'll be interesting to see what his demeanor will be like, as the season goes on. If Aston Martin comes out and struggles very, very badly in an embarrassing fashion, like will he bite his tongue, or will we get another epic, memorable quote that we'll be talking about 10 years from now, like GP2 engine? And Josh, I'm glad you brought up the fact that happened at Honda's home Grand Prix. I actually forgot that it happened at that track. They said that at that track, but that just adds insult to injury for all the folks at Honda. But I'm sure Aston Martin and Honda, they're going to be working very, very hard, in the days leading up to Melbourne, and then throughout the season, to try to develop this car and develop the power unit to make sure that Aston Martin will be in the game, instead of struggling for speed and also battling issues with reliability as well. And if this gets bad, I'm not sure what Alonso will do, but at 44 years old, he's going to be 45 before the end of the season. He's not a spring chicken anymore. He's getting up there in age and doesn't really have much time left in Formula One. So if this is like really bad, it would not surprise me if he decides, hey, I've had a great F1 career, all things considered, and I'm going to go ahead and ride off into the sunset and truly retire from Formula One this time. I know he retired from F1 before, had some fun, in IndyCar, in Indy 500. He did some endurance races and won those, and then he came back to Formula One for another stint. So I think that this time, he would probably he's going to retire from F1 for good. I don't know if it will happen during the season, but if it does, a lot of the American fans will be happy, because who is the Aston Martin reserve driver? Mr. Jack Crawford. It'll be great to see Jack Crawford get an opportunity in Aston Martin, even if the car, is not that great. It will still be great to see, another American driver on the grid, at least from my perspective.
Yeah, it's about time we have some more American drivers on the grid, especially considering we've got American teams coming in left, right, and centre. Okay, moving on to our second story for the evening. MotoGP's Australian race weekend will move from Phillip Island to Adelaide, starting in 2027. Now, the new MotoGP Sports Entertainment Group, formerly known as Dorna, the South Australian government and the city of Adelaide have agreed to a 6-year contract to bring MotoGP racing to the streets of Adelaide until 2032. Now, this event will be the first ever MotoGP Grand Prix to be held in a city centre, but there will be safety standards put in place required in the modern era of motorcycle racing. MotoGP will use an 18-turn, 2.6-mile layout, with riders expected to reach speeds of more than 211 miles an hour in November 2027. MotoGP Chief Sporting Officer Carlos Espeleta has said that bringing MotoGP to Adelaide marks a major milestone because this city has a world-class reputation for hosting major sporting events, with the opportunity to design a purpose-built and unique street circuit, and the graphic here courtesy of MotoGP. Well, Matt, bringing on this one, oh my God. You sort of mentioned this, I think, on the show last week when we were expecting the news, and then it sort of came out. What are your thoughts on MotoGP hosting a street race in Adelaide?
I don't know the names of a lot of the mayors of the cities in the UK. I don't know a lot of the names of the governors in the United States, but I do know that the Premier of South Australia is Big Pete Malinauskas, and he's pulled the coup yet again. He did it to get the Adelaide 500 back for supercars a couple of years ago, which is now, of course, the Adelaide Grand Finale. And now he's pulled the rug from Victoria, because this, of course, is the reverse. When Victoria and Adelaide had Formula One, and Melbourne pinched it from them, and now 20 plus years later, we've gone the other way, and Melbourne has lost its MotoGP. Or will do after this year. And please, everybody, tune in and get there if you can, because it is going to be amazing, as it always is. As World Superbike was fairly decent again at the weekend at that same racetrack. I love Adelaide as a racetrack for supercars. This isn't going to be the same loop. There is some parts of the track which will be the same according to the track map, and some that aren't. They're going to use a bit more of the old Formula One circuit out the back, which has been chopped off for supercars since 2002, I think it was. They used it to begin with there, and then went back to the short version, and we had the American Le Mans Series race at the end of 2000 on the old Grand Prix loop, the race of 1,000 years, with who could forget that snake liveried Audi R8 with McNish at the wheel. But I've gone off on a tangent, was surprised. But MotoGP on a street track, no, thank you. They're going to have to knock down houses. They're going to have to knock down apartment blocks. They're to have runoff, trees. Or just, I don't think this is going to A, work, or B, happen. So not so far away from Adelaide is the Bend Motorsport Park, and Yasser Shahin was part of the unveiling of this Adelaide MotoGP race in downtown, but he owns the Bend Motorsport Park, which is not so far away, and they have oodles of space for runoff area and no grandstands, fairly dull, no undulation, flat, boring, long radius corners, and that's probably where MotoGP is going to end up, and it's going to be boring. The Phillip Island racetrack is one of the best racetracks in the world. Yes, they could probably do some bits and pieces with maybe a new pit lane building and some safety requirements around the circuit. And as we saw at Bathurst last week, wildlife at the island is also a problem, but and will always be so because it's literally right on the beach. But it's just a shame that this has happened. Regardless of where it went, to take it away from Phillip Island is the biggest knot for me on this whole story.
No, with you on that 100%. Can't believe that we've thrown away 20 to 30 years of rider safety to say, yeah, Liberty's here, let's go race on street circuit. Well, literally, I was speaking
like what it's kind of in the background feels like, isn't it? Yeah. Liberty have taken over MotoGP, and one of their first notions is to do what they do with Formula One and make a load of street tracks everywhere around the world. Well, not quite going to work.
Now, we discussed last week, didn't we, that Albert Park would be a good alternative because there are runoffs at Albert Park where you can possibly host a MotoGP street circuit race because you can move the barriers back and give them space either side. It's possible at Albert Park, but Adelaide? No, there's no room. There was something as well that Simon Patterson said about how there was a head teacher where some of the building work is on the circuit where one of the runoffs is. It's in a school playground, and a head teacher didn't know that this was happening, and he said, I'm going to have to close the school for 2 months for this race to happen. So kids will lose 2 months of education for a 3-day event. It's just not going to happen.
In a similar way, the Townsville Street Circuit for supercars, which is always in July, it's in the summer holiday or the very beginning of the summer holiday, and it's right next to a school. So they have to have it in a certain spot to miss the end of. They can't have it too early because there's still school. One of the big schools in the city there. So yeah, it's just going to be that whole parklands area and around it is just going to be much like up the road from me, where they're just about to start building a theme park. It is going to be cranes, diggers, and everything for the next however long to get it ready.
Also,
it probably won't.
Are the supercars going to allow their grand final, one of their best circuits, to be messed with? The historic start line of Adelaide gone.
They've said for supercars' portion of this, they've kind of said we'll try and stick to what we do on our own circuit. So we're going to have
which can't be done
loops. But yeah, from the map that we saw for MotoGP, they're going to come down the wrong way of the straight that is
down Wakefield. Yeah.
It's all backwards.
And they're going to completely get rid of the centre chicane because now it's a right-left slower down. So doesn't make sense, does it?
It's a mess.
No,
Absolutely
don't like
it's
it.
not going to happen anyway. So
no, this is one of the PR stunts. Like, for instance, just to quickly explain, in 3 weeks' time, MotoGP is racing in Brazil for the first time in 20 odd years at the Ayrton Senna circuit. No word has been done about if that circuit is ready.
We talked about this last week, and I can't remember if we talked about it on the air or after we pressed the button.
I think we did it both, didn't we? Yeah, because
what's happening with Brazil? Because
there's been no sponsors done. There's been no paintwork. There's been no resurfacing done. So they're going to go there. It's a bit like India. That worry when we went there, we didn't know if we're going to have a race or not. MotoGP keep going, oh, we'll just have a race here and whatever. Balaton Park as well. That's not a motorcycle circuit at all in Weltenbach's or MotoGP. And it's that type of
Wales, Kimi Ring,
Kazakhstan.
Kazakhstan, yes, that's right. There've been plenty in the MotoGP. We think about races that have dropped off the F1 calendar, like Vietnam did. Granted, that was kind of half for the COVID issue as well, because I think that was that year, wasn't it?
Yeah, 2020.
But there's been so many races that have been put on MotoGP calendars with asterisks next to them, and they never happened. The Circuit of Wales Grand Prix was held at Silverstone for 4 years.
Yeah, and let's not forget as well the fact that the last couple of years we've had to double up at Red Bull Ring to make up the calendar.
Yeah.
So we've had Austria and Styria.
And Misano.
And Misano twice, yeah, the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix and the San Marino Grand Prix. And then, we had 2 Portugals one year, didn't we, to try and balance out the calendar at one end of the year.
Beginning and the start of the year, yeah.
Yeah, and that just got weird. And now that's sort of dropped back to the end of the year. And it's just all crazy. And if we take a closer look quickly on the future Phillip Island and the Grand Prix circuit. Now, as we said earlier, the final MotoGP race there will take place on October the 25th, and that's going to be a barnstormer. Now, this is Phillip Island's 3rd stint hosting MotoGP. This track had MotoGP racing from 1989 to 1990 before the Australian round moved to Sydney Motorsport Park between 1991 and 1996. MotoGP then returned to Phillip Island in 1997 and stayed there until 2019, then came back in 2022 to the end of the 2026 season. That last one due to COVID. Now, when MotoGP leaves Phillip Island, the only major racing series left at the track will be World Superbikes and Trans Am. Now, Matt, what do you think is next for Phillip Island? And could a potential return of supercars there kind of be in the cards?
Yeah, as I said, World Superbike was this weekend. That's now going to be their banner headline event for the whole year, apart from the Phillip Island Classic. I'm just trying to think. Yeah, they have the Trans Am weekend is part of GT World Challenge Australia, which is part of the Grid Endurance Performance Index. That weekend is end of March this year. It's the opening round of the season for GT World Challenge Australia. So after that, they'll have, relatively speaking, they'll have some club events and a regional stuff down there. Of course they will, but as a worldly thing, there isn't anything then until MotoGP in October. So that's a real shame. Supercars have not been there for the last few years. They obviously traditionally there's the Bathurst 1000 and then the Sandown 500. They were traditionally the 2 big endurance races, and of course Bathurst is still on the calendar. Sandown went away. They took it to Queensland Raceway mid 2000s. I can't remember if it went. I think it went back to, off the top of my head, it went back to Sandown. If Adam's watching, he'll try and probably remember this. They went back to Sandown maybe for a couple of years, then went to Phillip Island and took the 500 to Phillip Island for a few years. Didn't really work as an endurance track. The last sprint races they must have had there, again, was probably pre-COVID, like 2018, 2019. I've got a recollection of Scotty Mack beating Garth Tander to the line when GT ran out of fuel coming out the last corner, and that must have been 17, maybe even before that. He might have even been in a Gary Rogers car from memory. So supercars have not been there for a while. There's a couple of tracks that supercars need to get back on the calendar, Phillip Island being one of them, and Winton. So yeah, you feel for, yeah, we've seen this before with some tracks around the world where they have one big event and they lose it for whatever reason, and then that kind of see the demise of racing circuits to some degree. So let's hope that Phillip Island doesn't happen. You remember Silverstone when Donington was going to get the Formula One race in 2009, because I was there, because it was announced on Silverstone Grand Prix Day that, and then they of course said, "Oh well, we've lost the Grand Prix, but we're going to build the wing," and then ended up getting the Grand Prix back anyway. So it might not. Let's hope that for Phillip Island that it isn't the end of this, and perhaps sense will prevail when they realise, actually, we can't do this. What we want to do, it's far too dangerous. There's loads of negativity towards it, and there's no money. There's somehow there's no money. One other thing I was thinking about there, where you were doing that bit about Phillip Island. If the Adelaide Street race happens, right? Where in the calendar is it going to fit? Because
it doesn't make sense, does it?
The end of the European swing, Aragon, Misano, whatever, end of September. Then we go off to do our Asian trips at Japan.
I think they want to have it in November next year.
And Australia, because of course we've lost one of those races now; it's moved, and that's where it will be. But as you say, if they're going to have that in the same slot, then they would have to have most of the tracks set up still for supercars, which is end of November, beginning of December. So,
which is why the head teacher said 2 months, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just calendar madness.
And thinking about it as well, it doesn't actually make more sense, because it's not really the MotoGP guys I'm worried about that much. But, it's the Moto3s on a street circuit.
Yeah.
And I mean, are they going to say, okay, you can't run this, you can't run Moto3 because it's too dangerous? Then why isn't it not too dangerous for MotoGP? So we got Moto3 30 young Moto3 riders hurtling down an Adelaide street circuit. I mean, no disrespect to what happened last year, but they can't even handle a formation lap without crashing into each other. So street circuit, it just rubs me the wrong way if we do go ahead with it. And I know Dorna, and you know Dorna, that they are quite stubborn. They're going to wait until the last possible second for this to happen.
We're still going to call them Dorna, even though they're not called Dorna anymore, but we are still going to call them Dorna because it's easier.
Yeah, it's Dorna until Carlos and the whole Esplanade crew leaves, effectively.
Right. Okay.
And then it'll be Liberty Media who own it, like how it was still Bernie in that 2016 transition year.
True.
That's what it feels like right now. Don't know what they're doing with World Superbikes, because renaming Dorna, which had control over MotoGP and World Superbikes, to now MotoGP, kind of leaves World Superbike going like, well, what are we doing then?
What about us? Hello.
Yeah. I hope they find us out soon, because there's a lot of good racing that we had at Phillip Island as well, despite the winner, dominating as we thought he might. I quite enjoyed it in the comment box, actually. It was quite fun. Okay, so this is going to be interesting. I've dosed up here while you've been talking. Let's get into the longest paragraph and see how long my voice goes on for. Apologies, I have to stop. Just when we thought we were going to get a break from the courtroom, another case involving NASCAR has popped up. Now, according to an article written by Jordan Bianchi from The Athletic, Joe Gibbs Racing has filed a lawsuit against its former competition director, Chris Gabehart. Now, JGR made serious allegations against Gabehart, accusing him of scheming to steal the organization's most sensitive information and hand it over to Spire Motorsports. Now, last weekend, it was reported that Spire plans to hire Gabehart as chief motorsport officer. We've seen JGR react by making a change to its complaint in the lawsuit, adding Spire as a defendant and asking for a temporary restraining order to block Gabehart's move to Spire. Now, this court case is Joe Gibbs Racing versus Spire Motorsport and Chris Gabehart. In the lawsuit, JGR said Gabehart got frustrated with his role as competition director and wanted an expanded role that would have him get complete control of every development on the team's competitive side instead of collaborating with others. Now, apparently, team owner Joe Gibbs refused to give Gabehart the kind of power he desired, so Gabehart informed the team that he wanted to leave. Then, both sides were planning to part ways on November the 10th, 2025. But as you can see right here, In a post by Jeff Gluck from The Athletic, Gephardt's termination letter is dated February the 9th, 2026. Now, in the article, Bianchi says JGR used standard protocol after the departure by confiscating Gephardt's computer and conducting a forensic analysis where they later discovered that Gephardt had taken private information from the company. The lawsuit alleges that Gephardt copied and retained confidential information, which included race setups, simulation reports, payroll details, sponsor revenue information, and internal analytics. JGR also claims that this information was saved in a folder titled Spy. Now, Chris Gephardt has released a statement. Yesterday afternoon, Joe Gibbs Racing filed a lawsuit claiming falsely that I shared JGR confidential information with Spire Motorsports and or other unnamed third parties. I feel compelled to speak out today and forcibly and emphatically deny those frivolous and I can't pronounce that one as well. It's gone. My glasses have gone. Retroactive claims. I look forward to the opportunity to demonstrate to the court that I had not shared JGR's confidential information with anyone. In fact, I have already demonstrated that to JGR. A third-party forensic expert retained by JGR recently examined my laptop, cell phone, and personal Google Drive and found no evidence to support the baseless allegations in JGR's lawsuit. We even offered JGR the opportunity to do a similar review of Spire Systems. JGR refused that offer and filed this spiteful lawsuit instead. Stay tuned. We will have much more to say in the legal response when we'll be filing in the coming days. Tell you what, Americans sometimes do use different vocabulary than us Brits. It throws me sometimes seeing that in a statement. But during his time at JGR, Gephardt was known for his success as Denny Hamlin's crew chief. The duo won 22 races together in the Cup Series, including 13 victories in 2 years in 2019 and 2020. Now, after becoming the competition director, Gephardt also served as an extra voice on the pit box for Ty Gibbs. Gephardt was the race strategist for the number 54 team as he attempted to help the young Gibbs and his crew chief, Tyler Allen, bring the best out of the driver still looking for his first career win in the Cup Series. Photo taken by Jared C. Tilton from Getty Images. Now, right before 5 p.m. Eastern Time, Matt Weaver from motorsport.com and other reports revealed some new explosive court documents that have become public involving Ty Gibbs. Now, according to these documents, Gephardt called JGR a dysfunctional organizational structure that he could not continue to be a part of. He also expressed concern about Ty Gibbs and the number 54 team, which Gephardt believed should have been managed and held accountable in the same manner as the other JGR teams. Now, Gephardt added that Joe Gibbs directly managed his grandson's team and everyone at JGR knew it. Additionally, Gephardt said Joe Gibbs tried to pressure him into becoming Ty Gibbs' crew chief earlier last season, and he eventually caved to the pressure, despite not believing that it was the right decision. Admitted that he served as Ty Gibbs' crew chief for 9 consecutive races starting from the June 28th, 2025, before responsibilities returned to Tyler Allen atop the pit box. Now, Gephardt says ownership was against the move, but he stated that he didn't want to be a crew chief long term because he wanted to focus on his responsibilities as competition director. He added that he identified specific examples of differential treatment on the number 54 team that undermined his role as competition director. Gephardt provided examples such as key personnel decisions being made without his knowledge. Lastly, he called out Ty Gibbs specifically, saying the number 54 driver was not held to the same meeting attendance standards as others on the team. Ooh, that was tough. It's a long old mess, but Matt, given all of Chris Gephardt's success with Joe Gibbs Racing, how sad is it actually to see this messy exit from one of the most respected leaders in the NASCAR garage? And also, what's your take about the part on Ty Gibbs' number 54 team?
Nepotism. What a mess. And just as we thought we got away from a Charlotte courtroom and NASCAR people being in there day in, day out. NASCAR Part 2. Here we go. Yay. I mean, Chris Gephardt respected in the garage. As you mentioned, all his wins with Denny Hamlin there at the end of the last decade. It looked like that was his crew chief time kind of done when those two went their separate ways a couple of years ago. But the noose around the neck was tightly pulled, and he ended up on the 54 pit box by the sound of things, and was coerced into doing a job that he perhaps wasn't signed up for and did not want to do. And it didn't really get the 54 car anywhere, did it? We're still waiting for Ty Gibbs to break through and win a race. He's come close on a couple of occasions, namely Mexico last year when they got the strategy wrong in the middle of the race. But yeah, what a mess. And there's bombs going off all around the Charlotte area of this over the next couple of days, and there's going to be some potentially spicy takes for some people in the paddock at COTA over the weekend, which we're all looking forward to getting down there for the weekend's races. So gonna be interesting to see what comes out of all this. But it sounds like, from Gabehart's point of view, he's got a fairly solid case behind him. We'll just have to wait and see how it pans out. Wild. That's all we can say about it, really. It's crazy.
If I had £1 for every time we had a NASCAR courtroom driver, I would have £2.
You'd have £2, exactly. Yeah.
Not weird that it keeps happening, though, is it? As well. Do you remember even before we had the 2311 Fernando Motorsports one, we had what was it, teams, garages getting seized for FBI investigations, and do you remember that? That was weird.
Yeah. I kind of thought this one was going to get settled by earlier in the week, and what we heard coming out of Atlanta at the weekend, as this building away, and whatever podcast or you listen to or articles you read, you go, this probably isn't going to make it. Not now. This is going all the way, it sounds like. So as long as you don't call anyone names that they shouldn't call them in messages that then get released just before it goes to court. Happened last time, so let's hope that stays clean and tidy. Hey.
Well, from one controversy to another in NASCAR today, because this afternoon NASCAR has announced the new format for the All-Star race at Dover Motor Speedway. Now, All-Star weekend will take part May the 15th to the 17th, starting with Cup Series practice and the Craftsman Truck Series race on Friday, May 15th. On Saturday, May 16th, we'll see the Cup Series qualifying and the Mechanics Wear Pit Crew Challenge and the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series race. Then the All-Star race will be on Sunday, May 17th at 1 p.m. Eastern on Fox Sports 1. The All-Star race will be a 350-lap event broken down to 3 segments, 75 laps for segments 1 and 2, followed by a 200-lap segment 3. Now, shifting over to qualifying, drivers will make 2 laps, which includes a pit stop. Then we'll see drivers will exit pit road, take the green flag, and run 1 lap at full speed. On the second qualifying lap, the pit crew challenge comes into play, with the results determining the starting lineup for segment 1 with a full field. So there won't be an all-star open this year. Now, with the pit crew challenge playing a role in the qualifying time, the fastest 4-tyre pit stop will determine pit selection order for the all-star race. And looking at the overall all-star race format, every car entered will start segments 1 and 2 for 75 laps apiece. However, for the start of segment 2, the top 26 finishers will be inverted from segment 1. Then the lowest combined finishing positions from both segments will set the starting lineup for the 200-lap segment 3. That will ultimately determine who wins the all-star race and $1 million. Segment 3 will consist of 26 drivers, with Cup Series race winners from 2025 and 2026. Fan vote winner, past Cup champions, and all-star race winners competing full-time, and the remaining drivers will be determined based on a combined finishing position from segments 1 and 2. Denny Hamlin was critical of the format, saying drivers who failed to qualify will also be presented with participation medals on the front stretch after the conclusion of Stage 2. Graphic courtesy of Dover Motor Speedway. Well, I think the simple question is, Matt, is why the heck is this so complicated?
I don't see what the problem is.
You understand?
Honestly, Yes, I do. It's been the same for ages. The gun goes off in the morning. You line all the cars up in the pit lane. They go around the speedway for 4 laps and set an average time, and then we set the grid for the Indianapolis 500 because that's what's happening at the same time as this absolute fruitcake that's happening at Dover. And that's
Oh,
what
it is,
everyone will
isn't
be
it?
watching, especially as it's on at
Oh.
1 p.m. Eastern time. What? Why? Right. The next thing that needs to happen with the All-Star race. No, it isn't. It is a non-points race at Dover. They need to change the name because it's a full field. Or is it a full field? Because half of them, less than half of them are going to say goodbye after 2 lots of 75 laps, as far as I understand it. But I also understand it that there's only going to be 26 people in the final segment. But that's going to include all the winners from 2025 and 26. What if there's more than 26 winners with the provisionals? Then what happens? If we get the next couple of weeks and we have a load of people win races in this season that haven't won over the last little while, we're going to have more than 26 people. And then what do? Just stop with this all-star race, please. I've been saying this for 12 years. It just needs to stop. It was a thing in the 90s and it paid a good money. $1 million now is peanuts in the current economy and the current racing economy. It doesn't get anyone anywhere. It was okay when it was at Texas. We had the sort of controversy with Ryan Blaney and the window net and stuff in that 1 year he ran at Texas Motor Speedway. It was good last couple of years at Bowman Gray. Not Bowman Gray, sorry, North Wilkesboro. It was okay. It made sense. This, again, having it in the summer, in the afternoon, late spring, summer, at a race with no lights, at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, against 500 qualifying down the road at Indianapolis, is just farcical. Having the truck race on a Friday night at 5 p.m. is also why? We had a record number of people tuning in for that truck race at Daytona a couple of weeks ago, and now you're shoving a truck race on a Friday tea time. Why? Why can't you have that race on? Do another double on the Saturday. Forget NASCAR Cup Series qualifying. Draw lots, and then race for segment 1 and have the truck race and the Grand National race both together on a Saturday, like we did last weekend at Atlanta.
I'm going to have to find somebody to call this because, correct me if I'm wrong, yourself, myself, Matthew Owens, JT, Omi, we're all going to be on the Indy 500 poll. Yeah, so we're going to need some people to call this one because we're not going to be there.
It's not a point scoring race. There's also MotoGP at Barcelona that weekend, Formula E at Monaco, World Superbike at Most, and BSB at Donington Park. On my list, there's probably a lot more.
That's a busy day. Oh, hang on.
The All-Star race at Dover.
Hang on, let me have a look. All-Star race at Dover.
I've been saying that for a long time, but just
have a look. So Monaco for Formula E, the Catalan Grand Prix, Czech Republic for World Superbike.
Yeah.
And then the All-Star race at Dover as well. So yeah, that's what I've got.
BSB Donington as well.
BSB Donington.
So,
look at that. I might not even be there. I might be in Czech Republic. So it's a mess. Absolute mess. Well, while I recover my voice, and Matt, tries to figure out how he can be in 2 places at once, we're going to head over to Kobe for the latest, for more news around the world as well, because there's no EPI update. So, Kobe, over to you. I don't usually link to you. This is new.
Thank you, Josh. Time for some more motorsports news from around the world. IMSA Acura GTP factory driver Colin Braun will make his return to the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series this weekend for the inaugural race on the streets of St. Pete. Braun will drive the number 25 Ram 1500 free agent truck for Colleague Racing. He previously competed in the Truck Series full-time in 2008 and 2009, winning one race at Michigan International Speedway in 2009. Last month, he shared Meyer Shank Racing's number 60 Acura GTP in the Rolex 24 Daytona with Colleague Cup driver AJ Allmendinger. Braun said he's excited to get back behind the wheel of a NASCAR truck and join Ram's program, mixing his endurance background with oval and street course racing, graphic courtesy of Colleague Racing. 13-year-old Keelan Harvick, son of 2000 14, NASCAR Cup Series champion Kevin Harvick has signed a long-term deal to become a Toyota Racing development driver. Keelan will continue to drive for Rackley War in the late model ranks, but instead of using the Chevrolet body, he'll begin driving the number 62 Toyota. With sponsorship from ExxonMobil in some of his races, the younger Harvick is getting everyone's attention by achieving a lot of success at a young age. For example, he became the youngest winner in the history of the Snowflake 125 at Five Flags Speedway. Last year, Harvick made the transition from Legends cars to late models, which resulted in him winning 4 Cars Tour late model races and 2 races in the Cars Tours West division. Tyler Gibbs, president of TRD, said despite his young age, Keelan has proved on track, and he's praised him for being wise beyond his years with professionalism and work ethic. Off the track, Gibbs added that Toyota sees a bright future for him and they're proud to be a part of his journey. Photo courtesy of Kevin Harvick Incorporated. The Mercedes Formula One team has signed Teo Pourchaire as a development driver. Since winning the 2023 Formula 2 Championship, Pourchaire has experienced some difficulties in finding stability in a racing series. After winning the F2 title, he started the 2024 season in Super Formula before abandoning that program to compete in the NTT IndyCar Series, which ended prematurely after Aaron McLaren signed Nolan Siegel last year. Pourchaire raced in LMP2 in the European Le Mans Series, and that eventually earned him a full-time drive this year in the FIA World Endurance Championship Hypercar class with Peugeot alongside his duties as a Mercedes development driver. Pourchaire said it's an honor to work with and represent a team he grew up watching succeed in F1. Graphic courtesy of Mercedes. Junior Motorsports announced that late model legend Lee Pulliam will make his NASCAR Raleigh Auto Parts Series debut at Martinsville Speedway. Pulliam will drive the number 9 Chevrolet in the Martinsville Spring Race and finally get an opportunity to show his skills on NASCAR's national stage after all these years. He's a 4-time NASCAR Local Racing Series champion and a 2-time winner of the Crown Jewel Late Model Race, the Valley Star Credit Union 300 at Martinsville. And if I can pull this up on my screen and make it a little bit bigger, Lee Pulliam said he's so thankful that it's been a long journey and a much awaited opportunity. He said so thankful to each person along the way that helped make this possible. He said never give up on your dreams, because Lee Pulliam was finally going to be able to race, in one of the NASCAR National Series. And in addition, Shane Van Gisbergen will have 3 races in the number 9 Chevrolet starting this weekend at Circuit of the Americas. Carson Kroppel and Ross Chastain will also get 5 races apiece. And then the 5th, JRM entry led by crew chief Phillip Bell. Graphic courtesy of Junior Motorsports. Fox Sports has brought back a special brand with the launch of Speed with Harvick and Buxton. This is a new motorsports-related digital program co-hosted by NASCAR and Fox broadcaster Kevin Harvick and IndyCar and Fox broadcaster Will Buxton, built in partnership with NASCAR to cover multiple racing series around the world, such as NASCAR, IndyCar, Formula One, MotoGP, IMSA, NHRA, ARCA, Sprint Car Racing, and more. It's a revival of the popular Speed brand, what used to be a beloved 24-hour motorsports cable channel owned by Fox Sports that was around from 1995 through 2013. Harvick said motorsports has never been a one-lane road because it's a global passion with so many disciplines and stories to tell, adding that Speed is all about connecting fans everywhere to the heart of racing and giving them a place where every type of motorsports has a voice. Will Buxton said, having started his TV career with Speed back in 2010, he understands the emotional connection it has across America. Photo courtesy of Fox Sports. Prema announced that Sebastian Weldon will compete in the Formula Regional European Championship this year. The 17-year-old son of the late Dan Weldon moved to the European racing scene in 2025 and quickly became a contender in the Italian F4 and E4 championships. Recently, Weldon competed in Formula Regional Middle East Trophy and scored multiple podiums. He also performed well in the F4 Middle East Championship, winning 7 races, taking 3 poles, and picking up 9 podiums. Weldon thanked TWG Motorsports for continuing to support him. He says he feels like he's adjusted to the European racing environment. Photo courtesy of Prema. And that's all of the stories I have for you this week. So I'm going to throw it to Matt for everyone's favorite game. Pick a winner.
Thank you, Kobe. Pick a winner returns again this weekend. It is stacked this weekend. We have NASCAR at the Circuit of the Americas, IndyCar at St. Pete, and MotoGP getting underway, of course, in Thailand, which we are going to pick the sprint race for now, or at least attempt to. There is how the leaderboard stands. 8 people on the leaderboard, with Matt B at the top, last year's champion, and he continues to be flying the flag. I'm yet to get on the board. as is JB here. So Kobe flying the flag for the Grid Tonight team in third place. You can get your name on the board by using the hashtag pick a winner across all of the Grid Network's TV social media channels for the weekend. If you correctly guess winners on the weekend of the races I mentioned, and of course MotoGP, let's not forget 2 points available every weekend for MotoGP because there is a sprint race on Saturday and then the main Grand Prix on Sunday. We're about to give our selections for the sprint race, and I get to go first, and I am going to pick an Aprilia, and I am going to pick Marco Bezzecchi to win on Saturday. We have up until the green light to change our pick, but I am going to go for the moment with Marco Bezzecchi. Kobe?
That's a good pick, Matt. I'll be honest, I haven't been keeping up with a lot of the happenings in MotoGP this offseason, so correct me if he's not going to be ready to go. I'll go with the safe pick, the defending champ, Marc Marquez. Hopefully he has been cleared to go, and if he's not, I'm sure you guys will let me know. All right, Josh, who you have?
He is good to go. He may have had a crash on the final couple of days in Buriram. He said he's not 100%, but he is going to be there. So we'll see if he's good for the sprint race. I'm not going to go with Mark, and I'm not going to go with Marco Bezzecchi, even though that's a very good shout with Aprilia looking strong. I'm going to go with a man who's been waiting so long for an up-to-date Ducati, and he's now finally got it. Alex Marquez will win the Tissot Sprint on Saturday. He's been waiting. He's now got the 26 bike. He's going to take off. So watch him. He's going to be quick.
Goes well there. Had the fight with Mark in the main race, didn't he, last year, when Mark dropped back and let him have the lead to cool his tyre down. So get your picks in for MotoGP Sprint, MotoGP Grand Prix, NASCAR and IndyCar. 4 points available. You could go straight to the top of the leaderboard if you get all of those right by using the hashtag pick a winner and Grid Network's TV social media accounts across the weekend, and make sure you get your selections in before those races get underway. Before we go out, as we're almost on an hour and I'm starting to struggle, and I know Josh is as well, let's do a quick little roundup of hots and knots. And before we do that, actually, talking about GP, stand by your beds for big news within the next 6 hours.
About that, yeah.
MotoGP rider landscape when the press conference happens. Without saying any names, I can tell you that a double world champion that currently rides for Ducati will not be riding for Ducati next year.
You are completely right on that one.
He will also be riding for yet another Italian manufacturer. I haven't said any names.
No, you haven't. So you got away with that one. But watch out as well for the likes of Juan Mir moving around, Jorge Martin as well, rumored to be moving around because, of course, he wanted out of Aprilia last year. So again?
Acosta, Alex Marquez.
Acosta moving around, yeah. Well, it's rumored that Acosta's going up to the Ducati team alongside Mark, isn't it, as well? So that's going to be interesting. Don't know why Alex is staying where he is. What have you heard?
I've heard he's going to KTM to replace Acosta.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a surprise. It's all messy, isn't it, at the moment?
With Mav, because they're going to bring... Binder's going to get either down a peg or go completely. And Vinales is going to go up to the Alex Marquez's teammate at KTM. That's what I've heard.
And isn't it already
being announced? But
hasn't it already been confirmed that Quartararo staying or going? He's going to Honda, isn't he? Although that hasn't been confirmed yet, but that could again be confirmed in the next 6 hours.
To replace Luca Marini, which is a bad idea in my eyes, but there you go.
Yeah, and it looks like we're going to see Top Right go up straight into the main team ahead of next year because he's spending this year on the bike, the Pramac Yamaha with not Jorge Martin, but Jack
Miller.
Jack Miller, yeah, that's the one. God, it's so confusing because we're already thinking next year. Because remember, folks, this is the last year of the 1000cc regulations. Next year, we go down to 850 and we go to synthetic fuels. We ban all the aero, ride height devices and all that lot. It's going to be proper pure motorsport again. So this is literally the last year of these regulations. So everyone's jumping ship. Now, the Yamaha on the V4s don't look very good. They had a lot of tech problems in Sepang, which has put a lot of doubt in the minds of Fabio Quartararo. They didn't go out until day 3, I think, as well. They missed out day 2 completely after some issues with Quartararo, who got, of course, injured in the day 1 test. By the time we got to Buriram, there was issues with Marc Marquez as well. He just said he wasn't up to his speed, 100% fitness. So there's a lot sort of shaping around. So yeah, definitely keep an eye on the press conference. I can tell you exactly when it is. I've got it on my phone. The press conference starts UK time, so you want to convert this for you, at 8:40 a.m. But actually, the photo's on now.
About 8 and a bit hours then, because it's quarter to 12 now. So
11 a.m. here. 11 a.m. here. That's when it is, because they've done the group photo. So that's 6 over there, Eastern time, I think, 6 a.m. But yeah, keep it across. Hots, quickly.
Yes.
Tyler Reddick, 100%, and the 2311 team. What a brilliant double header they did.
Yeah, good race again at Atlanta, becoming the best track on the calendar. Hot SVG was fourth in the final corner, got dropped to sixth again, and led again. He led a couple of laps last week, led again this week. He's going to win this weekend.
Oh, I think, if I'm not very much mistaken, SVG, think about it, is the only driver to lead laps in every race so far this season. I know you go, oh, well, about Tyler Reddick. Reddick didn't lead at Bowman Gray. SVG led at Bowman Gray. He led at Daytona, and he led at Atlanta. So in all the cup races that we've had, don't count the Gilles because they're not really, although they are point races, and SVG did lead laps there as well. So if you think about it, SVG is the only one to lead laps at every race so far this season. So there you go.
Matthew Owens, who is watching, says he commented and it disappeared, but he says obviously the pick has to be SVG for Kota.
Zilich, can you really count him out?
Yeah. And
can you count Reddick out? Reddick goes well here.
Yeah, hasn't finished or qualified outside the top 5 at Kota in a 2311 car, Tyler Reddick. So he could go 3 for 3. That's never been done before to start the season.
Kind of want it. I mean, Bell did 2 in 2. He did round 2 and 3. Oh, he did 4 as well. Yeah.
It wasn't the first.
Excuse me, that was Byron. Do you see what I mean about my voice? I've got no control over it. I do apologise.
Other notables quickly. Sheldon Creed, congratulations to him finally getting a Grand National Series win after 134 billion races in that series. And the truck race finish as well on Saturday. Both the races on Saturday actually were really good.
I enjoyed them.
For a bike angle, quickly on a hot from World Superbike, Taron McKenzie 4th on Sunday was an excellent result for him.
Oh, in conditions, by the way. Yeah, race 2 should not have happened. That was ridiculous.
Yeah,
that should have been called off.
Fairly touch and go, wasn't it?
Yeah. So Sam's now injured as well from that accident he had coming out and down to turn 4. Fellow Lincoln lad down there.
Get well soon to him. I think they've got fairly long layoff. I think their next race is at Portimao at the beginning of April, so they've got a long break.
And of course, the brand new Sport Bike Championship kicks off there, as well as the Women's World Circuit Racing. So stand by for that.
Another series I can add to my ever long list of growing series I've watched in my lifetime because it's new.
It's going to be brand new. It's looking good as well, actually. I've taken a look at the rules and they look good racing. Taking a look there at our upcoming schedule. Oh, wait, hang on a minute. Knots.
Oh, yeah.
Wasn't really any, was there? It was a good weekend.
It wasn't much, really, no. Yeah. Not much to report on the not fun, which is a surprise.
Let's just say it's in Adelaide and MotoGP.
Adelaide, Oh, Luke Browning shut at Suzuka this morning.
Oh, yeah, that's a definite. They've got to fix those barriers.
If you haven't seen it, it's doing the rounds on all of the social media in a wet Super Formula test, which Kalle Rovanperä was, I think, 3 seconds off the pace. Quick Kalle watch update.
How quick can Kobe get that graphic up?
Yeah, he lost the rear in the rain at 130R, which is the fast left sweeper before the final chicane. And as we've seen with many cars over the years, took off across the gravel trap and then barrel rolled up the tyre barrier and ended up on the bank. If he'd gone even further down, he would have ended up at Degner 1.
Yeah.
So someone, a friend of mine, back and forth this morning on Twitter about it, I said they need to change the corner. We've gone past the point now of cars flying off the road there. They need to do something with the corner. The runoff is fine.
And I'm slightly more alarmed about Formula 1 this year. You're coming off for what would be a straight mode for the wing shutting and sliding in. That's round 3 of the season.
There's going to be a lot of those.
I'm not looking forward to Japan this year. I'm really, really not. It's going to be quite and also it's energy rich and energy poor circuits. That's what they're being described as. And Japan is an energy poor circuit because despite all the heavy braking zones of the corners you've got, you spend more time at full throttle because you're rising up through the sweep sections, so you can't harvest the energy as much. So Japan's going to be interesting this year. I've heard people saying it's going to be like 2005.
See, that would be good. If they have qualifying on Sunday morning. Lastly, to tie it all together, as we're talking about Formula One, Super Formula, and Japan, Jack Doohan, stories doing the rounds from him this week. Argentine fans, we've covered this on the show before. A big thumbs down to you.
Yeah, I agree, because sending death threats and having to have security details and it's a sport. Yeah, get over yourself. It's a sport. Honestly, I hate it when they do that, and just it's so bizarre. And to be fair, you've swapped Jack Doohan, who was better than Colapinto. Now Colapinto's doing worse. So I don't know. I mean, every time I see Colapinto at the moment, he's desperate to do as many PR words in his sentence as he can get out just to make sure he keeps his job. That's all he's there for at the moment. And if rumours are true that Christian Horner is very close to buying into that Alpine team, we're hearing that he could be there. Yeah. He could be there by the time the European season starts as team principal. We're in a lot of interesting times ahead in Alpine, which would not be called Alpine because I've heard already that they want to change the name back to another Formula One team of the past, beginning with a B.
Sounds like Nenaton.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, some sort of fashion brand that's still around, but mainly a racing team. I'm really losing my voice. Okay.
Let's get out here.
Right, taking a look at our upcoming schedule. Sunday, Grid Live wrap-up is 90 minutes after the NASCAR Cup Series race at Circuit of the Americas. Monday, Grid Rising is at 7 p.m. Eastern, recapping O'Reilly at COTA, Trucks and Indy next from St. Petersburg. And we'll also have plus more motorsport action. Soon we'll have F2 and F3 up there when they get back from Australia. Please do continue to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you like what you saw tonight, you can send us a YouTube super chat to show your appreciation. We've now passed 1,700 subscribers. So please help us on our next milestone of 2,000 subscribers. You can hit the bell icon to get notifications so you'll always know when we go on the air, and follow our social media platforms and visit gridnetworktv.com. You can take 5 minutes to invest in the Grid Network through Patreon. You can join Colin, Mark, Deshelle, Robin, David, Matthew, Crystal, and our newest Patreon supporter, Nico, who invest each month in the Grid Network. We encourage you to join these great group of people who keep us on the air all year long. And once we hit $500 per month, we can afford to send our team to the track more often and continue growing our media outlet. Link to all of this is in the video description below. And if you want to make a one-time donation, you can click on the Buy Me a Coffee link, get your name on the board, and invest as much as you want. And consider buying your favourite on-air personality a cup of coffee, and they will thank you on the air. Ooh, sorry about the voice tonight if it's affected anybody. I hope you can all hear me okay. So for Kobe Lambeth and Matt White from Grid Insurance Performance Index, I'm Joshua Birch from JB Motorsports. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Good night.